All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. If you've been enjoying our content, please make sure to like and subscribe. We appreciate all your support. We're diving into a good one here. Number 1, Arizona at number 12, Alabama. Technically not a home game for Alabama, but pretty much it's just about 50 minutes away from campus. Cody, what's your initial thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it should be an awesome game in Birmingham. Basically, we'll call this a home game. It's listed as a semi-home game on KenPom, but yeah, it's absolutely going to feel like it's basically in Tuscaloosa. We just looked it up. 52 minutes away from there. So yeah, either way, like wherever this game is played, it's going to be an awesome game. And I guess we'll start on the Alabama side. They've obviously played like a super daunting schedule. They played Purdue, St. John's, Illinois, Gonzaga, and then Clemson at home was like a sneaky tough game for them. They got up 17 in that game, and then kind of got bullied inside for a large portion of that game, but ultimately like they made enough shots down the stretch and kind of picked apart Clemson's bigs in isolation, got downhill against them, got pretty much whatever they wanted from their guards down the stretch. So won that game as well. I mean, they're 4-2 in that stretch of games, or sorry, 3-2 actually in that stretch of games. Like they're setting themselves up to be in that top 3 seed range with the SEC schedule coming up, and this would only add to it. Playing against the number 1 team in the country in the AP poll at this point in time, and it's not like Arizona has played a poor schedule themselves. They've arguably played a better schedule, like with opening night against Florida. Then they played UCLA and UConn in back-to-back games and got it done in those 2 as well. I mean, beating UConn on the road isn't something that many teams are going to be able to say in the next 5 to 10 years. They just don't really lose in that arena all that often. It's just a super impressive win, regardless of how injured UConn was in that game. And then they're obviously coming off the 29-point blowout at home against Auburn, where they just bullied them in pretty much every single area, really broke away in the second half in that game, just asserted their dominance inside. So, and that kind of could be the theme in this game. Like the games that Alabama has lost, they've run into some extremely physical teams like Purdue and Gonzaga, like 2 of the best two-way rebounding teams in the country. And you're running into a third one right here with Arizona, with Koa Peat, Mo Krivas, Tobe Awaka up front. They're going to have their hands full. And Alabama's getting healthy here at the very least. They're going to get Keaton Bristow back. Taylor Bowen looks like he's going to be ready to go also. Their guards are getting healthier. I'm not sure if Holloway's in. I believe Reitzel is going to be good to go. And one other guy that was supposed to, and Jalil Bethea has come back for a couple games. So they're getting healthier here as well. And Bristow is going to be big in this game to be able to hold up in the front court. But yeah, it's going to be a super fun game, super fun, like up and down game. But Alabama's going to need to show something on the glass if they want to win this game.
Yeah, this is one of the games you have circled if you're a college basketball fan. I mean, it kind of has it all. You got the star power with Philon and Koa Peat, of course, and then just like good up and down basketball. It'll probably be a pretty fast-paced game. With that being said, Cody, what does Alabama have to do? Technically, it's an upset if Alabama wins this game. What I think it's pretty even. But what do they have to do to come out of here with a win?
Yeah, I'm not sure Alabama would consider it an upset, but like for AP poll purposes and basically just that, I guess it would be considered an upset, beating the number 1 team in the country. Like everyone's going to determine that to be an upset, but it's, the things that I mentioned, like up front with Alabama, it's keeping Arizona off the glass. I know it's like nearly impossible to do, particularly on the defensive end. Like Arizona's 8th nationally in offensive rebound rate against like a pretty good schedule. Like they bullied UConn up front for a large portion of that game in stores. And, Alabama is definitely a thinner front court, even when they're at full strength. I've kind of liked what I've seen from Aden Sherrill in the past couple of games, had 8 blocks against Clemson. And, he was kind of the deciding factor with the interior defense when it came to shutting them down late. So he's going to be massive in this game. He's going to need to stay on the floor for a lot of this game. I think he is better suited to handle these Arizona bigs than Keaton Bristow. Keaton Bristow a little bit thinner, but he can do a little bit more defensively, guard in space a little bit at a higher level. Like we saw him in that game against Illinois, where they basically just shut down Illinois' ball screen offense with, kind of just switching all of that action. And Bristow is able to handle those guards in space of Illinois, and he's going to be able to do that in this game as well. But for this game's purposes, I do like Aden Sherrill for more minutes than I like Bristow. And for for Alabama on the offensive end, they're going to need to attack these Arizona guards, try to get a foot in the paint and find shooters in kick out situations. I know like Arizona does a very nice job of eliminating catch and shoot. They're in the 0th percentile, so I'm assuming that's the best team in the country in catch and shoot frequency allowed. Out of 261 jump shots that they've allowed, only 124 of them have been catch and shoot. So they do allow a lot of dribble creation, and I think in that sense, it's a good spot for Philon and Holloway, and maybe even a guy like Davion Hanna when he's coming off the bench, or Amari Allen. But ultimately, like Alabama wants to get to their catch and shoot game. I'm not sure Arizona is going to allow it, but I think this means Labaron Philon's going to need to be awesome getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line, and taking on a lot of the scoring load when they're not able to generate those catch and shoot threes for guys like Reitzel and Holloway. But yeah, those are the biggest things. Obviously, the key thing is just keeping Arizona off the glass, like keeping it within 10 for a rebound margin. And I think they have a chance with their shot making.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where the line actually ends up. When we're recording this, it's a couple nights before the game, so we don't have it yet. But Cody, do you have any idea where they might have it?
KenPom has it at Arizona -1. But
okay, yeah.
My guess would be it's shaded maybe a point higher, maybe a point and a half. So it might be Arizona -2.5. I don't know how much the home court will be factored in there. It's already factored in on KenPom as a semi-home game for Alabama, which usually gives you a point to a point and a half.
Yeah, I think I saw on Torvik it was like -1.4 maybe, or -1.5, somewhere around there. But yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if they added a point on or so. But what does Arizona have to do? What's their keys to the game to pull off a win in Alabama?
Yeah, obviously dominating the glass, like the things that I mentioned. That front court should be in a pretty good spot to dominate up front, regardless of how healthy Alabama's front court is. But for the guard play, I mean, Jaden Bradley is going to need to be really good. This is kind of like a revenge game for him. I don't think they've played Alabama since he left. He left 2 years ago, and I mean, he probably has had this game circled. I mean, I don't think there was any bad blood there. He got a lot of minutes and just happened to leave and go play somewhere else. And this is a really good spot for him, clearly. But for an Alabama defense that, allows dribble creation at a pretty high level, they allow pick and roll at a really high level. He's going to have to be really good in this game. And they're also going to need to establish their post-up game, force a second defender to guard a guy like Koa Peat or Mo Krivas inside, and then they can kind of create out of that. And I know that it hasn't come back to bite Arizona yet, but they don't shoot threes like really at all. They're 363rd nationally in three-point attempt rate, which is, I think, third worst in the country. At just 26.2% of their field goal attempts come from behind the arc. And in this matchup, I don't really think that's all that necessary for them to take perimeter shots. Like, just continue to attack the rim against a suspect, Alabama front court, like I've mentioned. But if they do need to knock down some shots, I do think they have some underrated shooters on this roster. And like Anthony Del Orso shot it pretty well. He's 12 of 29 from three. And I do trust a guy like Braden Burries to get it going from three a little bit as well. He's just 9 for 30, which is 30% from three so far on the season. But I do think he'll get it going at some point. Dwayne Aristote has been good as well, 12 for 26. So if Alabama is sending multiple guys to the ball, put them in rotation and find ways to get catch and shoot opportunities for your best shooters in Anthony Del Orso and Aristote and Burries.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned how few threes Arizona shoots, because Bama, they must be in the top.
They're like top 15.
Top 15, yeah.
They're over 50%. They take double the threes that Arizona takes.
Yeah, so you'll see a very different kind of scheme on both sides, which would be interesting to see how it plays out. But I just wanted to shout out Jaden Bradley, because he's just been playing so well. I mean, shooting almost 60% from the floor, 15 points per game. I mean, he's just been a real bright spot for that Arizona team. But Cody, who do you pick? Who do you have winning this game?
I like Arizona here, despite it being a semi-road game. I think this is another poor matchup for Alabama up front. The two matchups that have really bitten them have been Gonzaga and Purdue with their front court dominance, their two-way rebounding dominance. And this was my issue with Alabama coming into the season, was their two-way rebounding. They're typically a really good offensive rebounding team. They've been a step behind in that area this year just because they don't have, like, really outside of Aden Sherrill, they don't really have any guys that can really get all over the glass, particularly at the 4 position. You know, it's like Taylor Bowen hasn't been great when it comes to getting on the glass. He has just a 4.1% offensive rebound rate, and that's a real drop off from a guy like Grant Nelson last year, who was, you know, a really good athlete, a little more physical than Bowen. Bowen obviously does stuff really well. Like, he's a good defender for the scheme. He shoots it better than Grant Nelson ever did as well. But, you know, they don't generate more looks. They don't get second opportunities as much as they have in the past. They do take care of the ball a little bit better, but I do worry about them up front in this matchup. And I don't think Arizona's lack of 3-point attempts is going to come back to bite them here. It's more like rim denial schemes that can give them issues, like UCLA. So in this matchup, I do like Arizona. I do think it's going to be a super up and down game because neither team is really all that worried about slowing down the other one. So I think we get a score in the 90s. Honestly, I think we get an Arizona win 95-90.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm also taking Arizona. I think Alabama's a great team, but I agree with you. I'm glad you mentioned Grant Nelson because I think they're missing a guy like that, someone that does the intangibles. I mean, he was just a great player. It seemed like he was everywhere, especially off the glass. Like, he just was all over the boards, pretty much did anything you asked him to. But I also think it will be a high-scoring affair. I'm taking Arizona 93-87. Cody, anything to add here?
I'll just add, like, Grant Nelson was one of my favorite players to watch, really, like, back in his North Dakota State days before he ended up at Alabama. Like, I would just tune into a couple of his games just because I knew he was going to be on. I happened to watch him one day, I think that would have been, 3-4 years ago now, and he just, like, stood out in the Summit League athletically, just skill-wise. He was awesome, and I knew he'd be at a high major one day, and his impact, I think, is definitely missed here. I'm not knocking Bowen at all. They're just a little bit different skill sets. He's a little bit thinner framed, like, just not exactly what they need from, like, a second chance points opportunity, from a second chance points stance.
Yeah, I totally agree. He was one of my favorites to watch in the past few years. But we're gonna wrap things up here. As always, thank you for listening to the Mainly Hoops podcast.